What if I told you that becoming wealthy has almost nothing to do with your current job, your business, your income, or debt, and everything to do with a single decision? I went from foreclosures to zero in my bank account, a lot on my credit cards, to generating over $40 million in business and building a life I once thought was impossible. And I'm gonna show you in this episode the exact step-by-step path anyone can use to create extraordinary wealth, even if you're unemployed right now. And it starts with something most people never do, but once you do it, everything changes. And by the end of this episode, I'm actually gonna give you a map that I believe anyone can follow to achieve $100 million in wealth. Hey, it's David. Welcome to A Changed Mind, a sanctuary for your spirit, a place where each and every episode I remind you of the certainty of the goodness of the future. I'm your friend, your host, your guide, David Bayer. Man, I'm so excited for this episode. I recently had a conversation with a friend that unlocked a very specific possibility. In fact, I would say 100% certainty that I'm going to build my wealth to over $100 million. And I actually believe you can too. And really briefly, before we get into this episode, I want to share with you really the lowest financial point in my life. And you may have heard this if you've listened to other episodes, but it was just a little more than a decade ago where I had a failed business. I had 2 homes in foreclosure. I had a ton of credit card debt. I had no money in my bank account. And this was at about the same time that I met my wife. I've told this story before. We were out on a date and I was so freaked out that she was going to order something off the menu that I could not afford to pay for. And now I'm living a life where we've generated over $40 million in business. I'm doing what I love. I never have to worry about money again. But it wasn't always that way. And in fact, I remember a trip to Miami specifically that I took about a decade ago where I saw all the fancy cars and the flashy bling bling and all the beautiful penthouses on top of the condos along South Beach. And I was just really in a lot of despair, thinking that other people had figured out how to create wealth and there was just something fundamentally wrong with me and that I was never going to have the wealth or abundance that I was looking for, that I was always going to be living in some sort of fear of financial insecurity, and that I just didn't have what it took or know how to do it. And the bridge between where I was and where I am now happened because I made a decision. And today I'm going to give you the exact principles I used so you can do the same. The first principle that I want to share with you on your path to extraordinary wealth is that you have to decide to be wealthy. And that may sound like common sense, but up until that point in my life, I had not decided to be wealthy. I had all kinds of reasons and justifications and stories for why I wasn't. I certainly wanted to be wealthy, but I felt like it was some far off aspiration that I was never going to be able to achieve. And that's very different than a decision. You have to decide that you're going to be wealthy. Now, the other principles that I'm going to share with you are going to support you in giving yourself permission to make that decision. But wealth begins with one decision: I'm going to become rich. You have to be willing to decide that. Now, the mistake that most people make, and the reason why they don't decide it, because it seems so obvious, like, why wouldn't you decide to be rich? You're not going to get healthy unless you decide to be healthy. You're not going to lose weight unless you decide to lose weight. You're not going to start a business unless you decide to start a business. You're never going to become more spiritual unless you decide that you want to become more spiritual. Why don't we just simply make a decision that we're going to become wealthy? There's 2 reasons here. Number one is we hate making decisions that we can't fulfill on. It's almost like we're hesitant to claim or own something for the fear of failure. You know, nobody wants to set out on a course and not achieve the outcome, especially if you're going to put in a lot of time and energy, especially if you're going to socialize it with your friends and the people around you. Hey, I'm going to be rich someday, right? The people around you are like, yeah, all right, Steven, you know, you've got a bunch of credit card debt and you're unemployed right now and you've been living on your mom's sofa. How are you going to be rich someday? And so we're hesitant to actually claim it or own it, or the ridicule that might follow if we decide that we're going to achieve something or accomplish something or manifest something, and we don't. But we can't allow that fear to own us, because step 1 is the decision. All change begins with a decision. All change begins with a decision. Decision is the catalyst for the transformation of your life. And so we're going to get into some other tactics and strategies here on how to become wealthy, but it all starts with a decision. I'm going to become rich. Now, the second thing, other than the fear of not accomplishing it, so we hesitate to even make the decision, is thinking we need to know the how. Most people delay deciding that they're going to become wealthy, they're going to become a millionaire, they're going to become a billionaire, because they think they need to know the how first. I've talked about this on a lot of other episodes. Needing to know the how before willing to commit yourself and make a decision is a lot like putting the cart before the horse. The how actually unfolds as a byproduct of deciding. Anybody who's ever created anything extraordinary in life didn't know how before they decided, right? Edison decided he was going to create the light bulb, didn't know how. Ford decided he was going to create the Model T Ford, didn't know how. Elon Musk decided that he was going to send rockets to Mars, didn't know how, right? Anybody who's ever accomplished anything great didn't know how. You look at the founding fathers of the United States of America and the American Revolution, they didn't know how they were going to establish democracy and freedom and independence against the most powerful nation in the world. But they made a decision and the how unfolded. But most people think they need to know how before they're willing to make that commitment and decide. I've referenced this study before, but I'm going to share it again because it's so powerful. They did a study in 2009. It was featured in Time magazine where they brought in piano players to play the piano and they studied what parts of their brain lit up. Then they had them come back in the next day and just imagine playing the piano and the same parts of the brain lit up. So your brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. And what happens when you decide that you're going to be wealthy is whether you're conscious of it or not, you begin to imagine it. Whatever wealthy looks like for you, because it's different for all of us, right? Some people want to fly private. Some people want to have their own place and living, in Bali out in nature. Other people want to be massive philanthropists. Some people want to be businessmen or businesswomen. Other people with their wealth, they want to be able to change the educational system. And some people just want to be quiet with their wealth and have material things. It doesn't matter, right? But when you decide that you're going to be wealthy, at conscious and unconscious levels, you start to imagine what that would look like for you. You kind of open a portal to a new dimension of your life called wealthy version of you. And as you're allowing yourself to imagine that, contemplate that, entertain what it would look like, your brain doesn't know the difference between that imaginative act and it actually happening. And so you literally start to build a memory of a future that has not happened yet. Your brain starts to change because you start to record that experience as if you were actually doing it. So this is the beginning of transforming your neurology. You're creating the brain of a wealthy person. The brain of a wealthy person is established before the wealth arrives. And the way that you can create the brain of a wealthy person is, number one, decide. Number two, don't worry about the how. What's interesting is neuroscience and psychology tell us that the moment you make a new decision, you start to have new thoughts and ideas in alignment with the decision that you've made. So you unlock new thoughts and ideas that you now have access to that you didn't have access to when you had decided that you were going to be broke for the rest of your life, or when you decided that financial abundance was for other people but not you. So you start to have new thoughts and ideas. You start to shift your perception of reality. And so now all of a sudden you start to notice different things than you were noticing before, that were always in front of you, but that you were filtering out because they weren't in alignment with the idea that you're somebody who's not wealthy. And you start to activate synchronicities and coincidences. Your brain is a powerful vibrational device. Your nervous system is a powerful transmitter and receiver. And so as you start to now think these thoughts of wealth, prosperity, and abundance, entertaining a future with all of the beautiful details of what wealth might look like for you, you're broadcasting that out to the field, or you're sending a request out to God, depending on how you look at it. And now all of the components necessary in order to make that vision a reality begin to become organized and create coincidences and synchronicities in your life. So again, principle number one is you have to be willing to decide. I'm suggesting some perspectives that can support you in giving yourself permission to decide. Number one, no, you don't need to know the how, right? And number two, you become a wealthy person in your mind and in your psychology and in your desires and decisions first, and the wealth comes later. Number two, second principle. As you now have begun the process of becoming a wealthy person through the decision, there's going to be some resistance that comes up for you. One of the resistances we already talked about, I think I need to know the how. Well, no, that's not true. That's just resistance. That's not understanding how the whole system works. Other resistances are limiting beliefs, internal objections, or what I would call inherited scarcity. And we learned a lot of things about money from our parents. Oftentimes we learned ideas like money is hard to make because that seemed to be what their experience was, because they didn't understand how wealth worked. Or it takes sacrifice to make money, right? You have to sacrifice your health, you have to sacrifice your family, you have to sacrifice time. So if you're not somebody who wants to sacrifice your health, your family, or your time, well, you've got an issue. because you believe that that's necessary in order to produce wealth. So you won't produce wealth. You won't have wealthy ideas or put yourself into wealth creating situations. Or money is for other people, but it wasn't for us, right? There's a really powerful exercise. You can just do this while you're listening. And it's to complete the sentence. When I was growing up, money was blank. When I was growing up, money was blank. I've asked this question to thousands of people in my live events and my webinars. Don't overthink it. Just the first thought, the first word that comes to mind. I can tell you that 70% of people, the specific word is scarce. When I was growing up, money was scarce. About 90% of people, it's a word like scarce. And so what we can see here is wealthy people learned wealth from their parents. Broke people learned poverty from their parents. But you don't have to stay in that generational poverty. You can apply the principles of what I'm talking about here to break that generational misunderstanding. And it's also very important to understand when we think about money is scarce, like let's stop and look at that for a second. Let's question it, right? Because I'm saying, hey, drop the resistance, transform the limiting belief. But you might be saying, well, but Dave, how? Like money is scarce. That's my experience. And I would say, yeah, but money being scarce as an experience for you is only a result of you believing that money is scarce. It's not inherently true. I mean, let's take a step back and take a look at this idea of money is scarce. Money is not scarce. There's more money and more forms of it than ever before. From Bitcoin to other forms of cryptocurrency to all the different types of businesses that are out there which represent financial resource and prosperity. You could be starting a business. You could be investing in businesses. There are more businesses to invest in than ever before. There's more people than ever before looking to invest in businesses. There's intellectual property and know-how that you could put to work that could help you earn more money either in your career or to create a business. Like there's more forms of currency, the way that energy materializes or money materializes as an energy into our life than ever before. So is it really true that money's scarce? No, clearly not, right? There's more dollars printed than ever before. There's more money in circulation than ever before. The question is, are you going to grab a piece of the pie? And if you haven't decided to be wealthy, or if you believe that you need to know how you're going to become wealthy before you can decide, or if you believe that money is scarce, I mean, the brain is a goal-achieving machine. So you're going to stay stuck in a poverty mindset versus having access to the unbelievable amount of resource that's out there today. I mean, even if you look at what you're capable of with artificial intelligence, I mean, my wife told me the other day, I shared with her a business that ChatGPT and I are building as an offshoot of our current business. And she's like, oh my God, how did you create all this? I said, it was a 20-minute conversation with ChatGPT. She's like, you literally launched a business overnight. It is easier than ever before to create wealth, prosperity, abundance, or value in the world. There is more money than ever before and more financial resource than ever before. The question is, are you going to grab a piece of it? Hey, it's David. Just a quick interruption to your regularly scheduled episode by your favorite sponsor, moi. I want to tell you about my book. It is available on Amazon right here, right now. A Changed Mind, Go Beyond Self-Awareness, Rewire Your Brain, and Re-Engineer Your Reality. In this little book are all the frameworks, the tools, the methodologies that I talk about on this show and that I've used to actually change my mind and that tens of thousands of other people have used to transform their bank accounts, their businesses, their relationships, their health, their spiritual connection, everything that you want to achieve. This is the way to achieve it. And Amazon has done us a good one right now. It's significantly discounted. So you can go and pick up your copy, or better yet, pick up a copy for a friend too. There's nothing better than giving the gift of transformation right now. Hop on over to Amazon. There's a link in the show notes. And if you love the book as much as I loved writing it for you, do me a favor, let me know that and leave a review. And now back to your regularly scheduled episode. And you can if you align yourself with prosperity and abundance. It will be difficult if you're unwilling to decide, you think you need to know the how, or you continue to beat this inner affirmation or drum of money is scarce or hard to make. Principle number 3, give money a purpose. So money flows for creation, not for crisis. So this is really important to understand. Money flows for creation, not for crisis. And what I mean by that is money is energy. That's why we actually call the forms of money, the primary forms of money, currency, like an electrical current. It is a representation of an exchange of value in the world. And energy flows to grow, to expand, and to evolve. That's what all energy does. That's why we see the constant expansion of the universe, the diversification of species on this planet, the diversification of ideas, right? Energy itself is a form of creation. And so creation is looking to create. It's not looking to solve crisis. Money is not going to flow to you to help you get out of this idea of financial insecurity. It doesn't work that way, because money actually sees it, or life sees it, as you're not in financial insecurity. You've always had enough. You have enough right now, and you will always have enough. Now, you may want to have more, but you have enough. How do we know? Well, I mean, because you've got the resources to even be listening to this episode. You say, Dave, but you don't understand. Like, I may not be able to pay my rent at the end of the month. Okay, well, guess what? You'll be evicted and you'll still have enough. It may not be a circumstance or situation that you like, but that's different than you not having enough. It's very important to question the mind, because you have always had enough, you have enough, and you will always have enough. And that's actually a really solid psychological foundation of wealth to be operating from. If you believe that you have enough, you can create even more. But if you're operating from financial insecurity and believing that you don't have enough, it's very difficult for money to flow to you. So number one, we need to desire money for an expansive life, not to get us out of our crisis. And number two, then we need to create a compelling vision for that life, because money is looking to materialize into that life. So I want you to go through an exercise. I want you to think about, and you can do it after this episode, pull out a piece of paper from your journal and say, 36 months from now, what does a rich version of me look like? I want you to establish the home you'd be living in, the vacations you'd be taking, the lifestyle that you'd have, maybe the business that you've started, the philanthropic giving that you'd be doing, the freedom that you would have, the private chef, the flying private or business class, the fancy at-home infrared sauna, the being able to pay for your kids' college education, paying off all your credit card debt, not because you're looking at it from a financial insecurity perspective, but because you're building your wealth, investing in stocks, investing in companies. What does your life look like 36 months from now as the wealthy version of you? We call this the living income process. You define your dream life 36 months from now, and you look at all those things, and now you add it up. And that becomes either your monthly or your annual wealth target. And you go, but Dave, that's crazy. I mean, that's $750,000 a year. I'm only making 60 grand a year right now. I'd have to make $750,000 a year to afford that life 3 years from now. And I'm saying, yeah, but we're not 3 years from now yet. I just want you to get clear on, create a vision, start building a memory of the future wealthy version of you, and have the clarity so that you and money can have a healthy relationship, because the money is coming to finance your life, not to finance you out of fear. Money won't come to you for that. And so if you can get clear on the life that you want to live 3 years from now, and you know what? It doesn't have to be your next level is not your final level. So just think about, what would dramatically change my life right now? For a lot of people, if you're making $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 a month, another $25,000 a month would be massively impactful on your lifestyle. You could probably finance almost everything that you want to do. So set that goal without needing to know the how, and continue to move through the structure. Principle number 4 now, right? Number 3 is align yourself with money through a vivid vision. Principle number 4 is live in the anticipation. Let the how show up. You don't need to chase it. You don't need to hustle and grind. You don't need to push it. In fact, very little in your life needs to change from your perspective. Keep living the same life you're living. Now, maybe notice when you're starting to tell yourself, I don't have enough, and remind yourself that you've always had enough, you have enough, and you will always have enough. Notice perhaps when you tell yourself that money is scarce, and remind yourself that there's more forms of money and currency and resources in circulation than ever before. That's a good habit to have. We call that a decision matrix. It's like a living meditation where you notice your limiting belief and you reinforce it with your new decision and what's really true. That starts to change your brain. You start to build new neural networks and maintain your wealthy personality. But when you get to this next principle, you don't need to actually do anything. You just live in anticipation. So you stay alert to inspired thoughts. You stay alert to conversations that show up. You stay alert to coincidences and synchronicities, or new ideas or sudden invitations that wealth will unfold through. I won't go into this full story because I talked about it in another episode, but I had made a decision that I was going to make $60,000 by the end of the year. That was a source that was not my current career. And about a month later, I got invited to a lunch. I struck up a friendship with this gentleman. He invited me a month later to come down to his offices. He was getting pitched on a business idea. I understood that business idea, and he was able to acquire half of this business idea for a very small amount of money. And he said, hey, if you'd like half of my half, it's going to require a few $1,000s. I still had a bunch of credit card debt and 2 homes in foreclosure, but at a few $1,000s in my bank account, I invested in the idea. By the end of the year, I got my money back plus $60,000. So you don't need to know the how, and you don't need to chase it. There will be opportunities that show up perhaps for you to acquire some new skills, and those skills will be valuable in the future for you and be part of you building your wealthy plan. So it's not linear. There will be people that you meet in circumstances and situations that arise that will shepherd you from wherever you are right now, whether it's hundreds of thousands of dollars of credit card debt and no job, or whether it's doing pretty well for yourself but you wanting to get to the next level. It will shepherd you to the other side. For some people listening, it's going to be, first you get rid of your credit card debt. Then you start building up a little bit of income. Then you start building up some financial resources. And then you grow from there. But the point I'm making here is that once you've decided to be wealthy and you're not worried about the how, and you've started to work with some of the resistance that comes up, like money being scarce, and you start to identify what you would do with this money and align it with an expansive life, the next step is not to chase it. It's just to pay attention. Keep living the same life as the wealthy version of you. I want you to get this. Most people move into action way too quick. What we've been talking about in the first several principles is building the wealthy you inside of you. Now go live the same life you've been living, but as the wealthy version of you, and watch what happens. And give it some time. You got to have some patience. But wealth unfolds through synchronicity and then follow through. So yes, there will be things that show up, and then you need to follow through on it, but you don't have to go hunting for them, because the plan will arrive, and the plan arrives after the alignment. Principle number 5. As you start to build your wealth, you start to acquire some new skills, you start to pursue some new passions, you start to engage with some coincidences and synchronicities, you're making more money in your career, you launch your own business, you're making more money in your business, investment opportunities show up, partnership opportunities show up, life shows up, and you work with what shows up in life. Just know that the journey to the wealthy you, or what I'm about to give you, which is your $100 million plan, is not linear. It's not linear. Money, life, creation contracts and expands. I had the miraculous opportunity to witness my wife giving birth to my son. Contraction and expansion. Pain and relief. And money and life and business, they all work the same way. And so the mistake that we make is that when we're in a contraction, we think that our path to prosperity is now cut off or doomed, and it's not. It's a natural part of the process, and you have to understand this. Yes, live in anticipation as the opportunities start to show up, and as you start to accumulate wealth, be okay with the contractions. In 2021, we had a big contraction in our business. We grew very, very quickly. We started this business in 2017, grew to over $25 million in revenue up through 2021, and then boom, contracted. COVID hit. There was a significant update on the internet platforms. We were running a lot of online marketing. And I moved into fear. This is how I learned from my own process, and I'm able to share it with you. I was like, man, I don't know if we're going to be able to get to the other side of this. What about the vision that I have, both in terms of what I'm creating, the impact I'm making, the financial prosperity and abundance, the generational wealth that I'm creating for my family? We went from making a ton of money to having to now take some of that money and invest it back into our business to keep it going, to keep paying payroll, to not have to cut anyone, to not have to lower salaries. It felt scary. But what I realized in that process was there were things in our business that needed to die so that the new could emerge. And there was some money that I needed to let go of so that more money could flow to me in even greater amounts. And it took a couple of years to get through that contraction. But, we just wrapped up our annual event, the Powerful Living Experience Live. And that was almost a $4 million event for us in one weekend, right? We're back, baby. But we had to sit through the contraction. And so it's like pruning a bush. Old income streams, businesses, jobs, identities, they often die off before the new grows in. So don't panic during a financial setback and when things don't go as expected, because it's likely the clearing before the next level. All right, now number 7, and this may be further ahead of where you're at right now, this concept, principle number 6, or it may be exactly where you're at right now. But as you're building your wealth, you're going to have new ideas come in. And a lot of times people don't know when they should jump on the idea or when they should let it simmer. And I like to apply the 80-20 rule. So you're going to get some ideas. Some of them are going to be wild. Some of them are going to be practical. Let them orbit in your solar system. You don't have to act on all of them. What I would recommend is keep focused on your wealth decision and plus your vision and whatever's going on right now in front of you that's creating wealth for you as the center of gravity. Allow 20% of your time to entertain those ideas because you want to nurture them. You want to feed them. You want to see which ones survive beyond the seed stage. That's how you're going to build this sequence of wealth creation all the way up to the $100 million model that I'm going to share with you here in a moment. But a lot of times, especially entrepreneurs and business owners can become very, very distracted with ideas. So maintain your focus on what is right here, right now, and continue to invest energy into it and let it grow. Because you'll take that initial concept and you'll build it into a powerful centerpiece of your wealth creation, like the oak tree of your wealth portfolio. That doesn't mean that you can't start planting other trees around it, but let those seeds orbit around your solar system for a while and see which ones start to draw to them. Again, the same way that you created wealth, the wealth that you have right now in this model, see which of those seeds start to draw more attention and resources to them, and then pursue those. You don't have to jump on everything immediately, okay? Sorry, that's principle number 6. I think I said principle number 7. Now it's principle number 7. Maintain an abundance mindset. So go back to all these principles as you're pursuing the path, because there are many, many times that things are going to show up that you don't expect, and it's very easy to move back into a fear of financial insecurity and not having enough no matter how much wealth you've created. The bigger the game you play, oftentimes the faster you're moving and the bigger the expense and stakes around it. And so I know plenty of people who have millions of dollars of wealth, but when the contraction hits again, they move into fear. Maintain an abundance mindset and prosperity. So what is that? The decision that you are a wealthy person, that you're on your path to even greater wealth, that you don't need to know the how, that there will be contractions. Maintain your vision in front of you and continue to allow life to unfold and work with what shows up in front of you. That is the path to your prosperity. Go back and look at the new decisions that you've made that are the opposite of scarcity, that are the opposite of needing to know how, that are the opposite of it's hard to make money or you have to work hard to make money. The beautiful thing about building wealth is that as you progress in your wealth journey, a lot of the old limiting beliefs are just going to fall away. I can't sense within myself right now many limiting beliefs around money. I have a lot of limiting beliefs about other things in my life, but I am 100% certain that I am building a multi-billion-dollar portfolio of transformational companies and creating wealth really beyond my wildest imagination. Now, let's get to the $100 million plan that all this culminates into. And this was a conversation that I had with my friend Ryan Moran. He interviewed me on his podcast recently, capitalism.com. And he said, as an entrepreneur, I had always thought that I was going to have to build hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue off of my businesses in order to achieve $100 million worth of financial assets or wealth. He said, but I asked ChatGPT something the other day. I said, what'd you ask it? And he said, well, I said, hey, if you look at the S&P 500, basically the 500 biggest companies in the United States stock market, and you invested in an index fund, how much money would you have to contribute on an average monthly basis? And how long would it take to accumulate $100 million in wealth? And so the S&P 500 over the last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years has been pretty consistent. There's a lot of ups and downs. We're seeing some ups and downs in the market right now. But on average, it's about a 9.5% return. And so what ChatGPT said was, if you were to invest $18,000 a month for the next 40 years, at the end of those 40 years, you'd have $100 million. And I was just blown away by what Ryan said, because for me right now in my life, I can drop $18,000 a month into the S&P, really no problem. And I just started doing that. He said, after that, by the way, you can buy Bitcoin, you can launch new businesses, you can swing for the fences, but at least you've got a $100 million plan. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, Dave, I don't have $18,000 a month. I'm negative cash flow in my life right now. And what I'm saying is, yes, but if you get a couple of years, you can get out of your negative cash flow into positive cash flow and get to a place where you're making an extra $20,000 in additional income on a monthly basis. It may feel like a lot of money right now, but I'm telling you, as a guy who had 2 homes in foreclosure and no money, now that I'm on the other side of it, it's not that much money, right? Making an extra $240,000 a year and then investing it in the stock market. And if you do that every month, $18,000 for 40 years, you'll be worth $100 million. And guess what? You can play with these numbers however you want. You could say, well, how much would it be in 20 years? It'll be less, but it'll still be a lot of money. You could say, well, what if it's not $18,000 a month, but it's $4,000 a month? It'll be less, but it'll still be a lot of money. A lot of times I find that people are trying to like hit the next thing, the next meme coin, the next Uber, the next Facebook. But really, if you just look at consistently investing over time in something that has a strong proven track record, over time you can become very, very wealthy. So I actually believe that anybody has the possibility of creating $100 million in net worth, as long as you follow the principles that we're talking about in this episode, and then you actually do something with that money that you're accumulating so that it can compound over time. A lot of people have a lot of different philosophies, but I wanted to share that with you because for a long time, I wasn't sure how I was going to get to $100 million. And thanks to my conversation with my friend Ryan Moran, I'm absolutely clear on that right now. You could say, well, what's the point? You're going to be 90 years old by the time you have $100 million. I'm going to say, well, because that's just one way that I'm generating income. I still have my businesses. I still have my Bitcoin. I still have my other investments. And you know what? I want to leave a generational legacy for my family, for many, 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 many generations. What am I going to do with $100 million other than continue to play the game of business? I live in my dream home. I don't need fancy cars. I'd like to have a private jet. I don't wear fancy clothes. I have one expensive watch. What do I need $100 million for? Other than to continue to make an impact in the world and play the game of business. And to have the resources to provide content like this for you. So I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I absolutely loved sharing it with you. Here's what I know for sure. If you make the decision to become wealthy and you stay committed to it, the people, the ideas, the timing, and the path will show up. Your only job is to say yes. And so pause right now and make the decision. Not someday, today. Decide to become rich. There's nothing wrong with that. And watch what happens. And if this spoke to you, do me a favor, pay it forward. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And let's keep rewriting the rules of wealth together. If you're listening on the audio platforms, do me a favor, subscribe and leave me a rating or review. I love waking up in the morning and seeing those reviews. If you're following along on YouTube, same thing. Hit that subscribe button, smash that bell icon so you actually get notifications, and let me know what you think. I love reading all of the comments. I try to respond to as many of them as I can. And thank you for being here on this journey with me. I know this is not a do-it-yourself project. We all get to share with each other, and I love that I'm on this journey with you. I love you very much, and I will see you on the next episode. Hey, it's David. Hop on over to davidbear.com. Click right here. There's also a link in the show notes, and sign up for our newsletter. You'll get immediate access to my free Mind Hack ebook, as well as a couple of trainings to help you master the inner game. This is a great way to stay informed and be a part of our community and be notified of special announcements. Click below, head on over to the website, get subscribed. If you loved this video, make sure you check out this one or this one, and I will see you in the next video.